Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Karen Mikowski, aka Butterfly Karen. Welcome. I'm also the leading investigator on any of my cases, parapsychology and paranormal investigations. So welcome. So good evening. Okay, it's been a couple of weeks since I've actually put any videos out, but I wanted to sort of focus on this one because it is regarding the my analysis to Gabby Petito. Now, I did work on her case, an active missing persons case. I actually conducted a real-time remote viewing session on the 18th of September 2021, and that was obviously an AMC03 case, but that's an active missing persons case at the time. And also, it was a strange, weird day because I knew I was going to be connecting to her energy frequency, and she was big news at the time when she was missing, but she'd been missing quite a while. She'd been missing at this point for, a few weeks at that point. So I knew that I was going to be connecting to her energy frequency, but I also emailed my report, my missing persons report, to the FBI that same evening at 10:35 p.m. Now, I wanted to do this video because I wanted to do the analysis because it was incredible how, a lot of my information. I mean, you got to remember, she was found on the 19th of September too, and a lot of the stuff I was getting at the time was pretty spot on. But she's the sort of done the Netflix did the sort of the documentary on her missing disappearance and everything, and obviously a lot more information came out. Now, what I'm going to be discussing is pretty triggering for when it comes to victims or survivors of domestic violence. So there is a trigger warning before you even watch this video. And I kind of want to, before I sort of go into it a little bit more into my analysis, I want to just sort of discuss a little bit about why it sort of case triggered me. And it still triggers me because I am a survivor of domestic violence 3 times. So, and I kind of want to explain a little bit about what type of abuse and how it can differ from one to the next, but the principle is the same. But it is triggering, and it's taken me. See, I wanted to do it like a week and a half ago, but I wasn't, because even as a survivor, when you start, and I'm still healing from this, it's a long healing journey, unfortunately, healing from domestic violence. But even when you're healing, it can still trigger you. There's still things in. So there's a bit of a process, and to open up, those doors again, and it makes you have to sort of look at each sort of situation, scenario. And Gabby's case really hit me as well, because the way what was happening to her, she was sort of on a road trip and everything with her fiance, and I've been there, I know what that's like, and in sort of very similar situations, like she could have been me, I could have been her. It's it's really incredibly sad, but it's this like anything to do with domestic violence. When you really are a victim of it and you're in the thick of it, it's incredibly hard. I mean, I suffer from Stockholm syndrome from it and everything, so I had those issues going on really at the beginning. But so there's a lot of sort of weird codependency and financial dependency that goes into some, when abusers have that power over you, you're being, it's awful. It's very. It's such a hard area to sort of talk about, but obviously in the future I'm going to do, because I'm still healing from it. Even though I'm a survivor, I'm still healing. It's still a process. You cannot heal over something like this overnight, because there's a lot of PTSD that goes into it. But like I say, I've been a survivor of this in 3 different scenarios, 3 different relationships, because I was a product of it, you see. And there's so many different ways of domestic violence, violence in relationships and everything. It's not just physical, it's psychological, mental and psychological, it's emotional abuse and everything. So, depending on what sort of person who's your abuser, There's many types of people that become abusers. I mean, I'm not being funny, but the rise in, the statistics are rising for men being the victims of domestic violence too, and that's increasing because those are unhealed women that are being abused, and they are not healed, and they have to heal. And it's the same with men who are, if you don't heal, you will hurt another. Hurt people, you got to heal, because that's kind of what's happening. I would say the last 10 years, looking at the statistics, it's the rise in female abusers. And a lot of those, they have the same scenarios. They were victims at one point. So they never really became survivors of it. I mean, their sort of survival is more to do with fight and flight. So rather than heal and get the therapy that they need, they just prepare like, oh, it's going to happen to me again. And it's that old saying, well, I'll hurt them before they hurt me. That is not how it works. That's not healthy at all. So I've seen, over the years, I've sort of watched, victims heal, and, survivors, they become the advocates of this, male and female, but more female, obviously, because men, there's a real weird social disgraceful stigma that men can't talk about this. Men need to talk about it if they are victims. Don't care. Men need to come forward, because there's far too many, and it's on the rise. Well, and I really don't like that, because I don't like violence on either side. I don't like double standards. So if you've been a victim of domestic violence or abuse or anything like that, you have to get help, and you have to go on the healing journey. You cannot be taking that into another relationship, because it's not healthy. And you're not only going to be one of those statistics that never heals, you're going to create a statistic in another person. So it's a very hard area for a survivor, a victim or a survivor, to even surviving. It's very hard to talk about, because it brings up flashback memories and everything. And you don't really sort of like, I didn't really put them in the, like in the cupboard and then close the cupboard door. I had to visit them to understand, to feel it. It's like, is that real reactive abuse? And there's all sorts of types of abuse these days from people. But you have to revisit it to acknowledge it and then to heal it. And it's awful, because you feel like, am I even healing? Now, the reason I'm discussing this is because there are different types of abusers. Look, there's different types of, for me, I know what it's like to be abused by friends. Look, people are not just dealing with domestic violence and, abuse from partners and things like this. There's so many different types of abuse today that comes from friendships, comes from family members, and it's like family trauma and everything. So it's really important it's very important to not just think, oh, this happens in partnerships. It does not. And there's so many different reasons behind the abuse, but when I look at the patterns, I was raised in it. I was raised as a product raised in a domestic violent household. Me and my sisters, that was our conditioning, our familial early conditioning. So we didn't really know there was another way, and that's kind of why I knew it was wrong. I didn't like it, and I didn't like, I knew I had to break that cycle, but it took me a very long time to break the cycle, because when I got my first relationship, when I was engaged, he was an animal. He was, horrible, just a drunken physical abuser. And then obviously, there's marriages that, again, because what you've got to understand is what you think is normal is what you attract. I didn't know any different. I knew it was wrong, and I knew I had to break the chain and, change the pattern. But every time I tried to, it was like there was a sign on me saying, I'm the perfect victim, here to the abusers. And that's kind of what it felt like. So And I am a strong woman. I'm a strong, tough mouthed and everything. I'm a Yorkshire lass, but it does not matter. Because your abusers don't just come in the physical sense. They come as covert narcissists and everything. They come manipulatively and everything. So you don't even always realize you're in it until you're within it, and then you're trying to get out of it. Now, in Gabby's case, it's very similar. A lot of things felt very similar too, because it's like she had no real support network. And I don't mean her family, of course they would have helped her, they would have done everything, but they didn't know. And that's usually where people get confused. Well, how can you have all these people that love you, but you had no support network? It's because of shame. It's very hard to tell your loved ones. And remember, she was living with her ex-fiance. I don't want to say his name. He's not even wife. I don't know. Anyway, because you can't forget the victims. But she was living with him. So her family was in, I believe it was New Jersey or that sort of area on the East Coast. But she was down in Florida, and then she went traveling. And for me, I had a notion between my support network, and even then, just by being completely honest, when I did raise what was happening to me. Oh God, here we go. I'm sorry, I'm connected as well, so you're gonna have to excuse me. Ooh. It's just some confirmation. I'm always connected to the higher order. So for me, it was, if I'm being honest, when I look back, nobody wants to deal, like, even though people say, oh, your loved ones claim they love you and everything, and this is nothing to do with her family, I'm just talking specifically about me, but my situation, the shame, and by the time I felt unshamed enough to sort of tell, what was happening to me, it was like they didn't want the bed, and I felt abandoned. And there's nothing worse than feeling abandoned at all. And that's even just having to admit it to yourself, like, wow, then you're truly alone. But you've got to remember, abusers will do everything they can to segregate you from your loved ones anyway. And I feel, it's kind of hard because you don't always know you're in the thick of it until you're trying to escape it. So when you're sort of raised in that sort of environment, you think, well, okay, well, the last time I went through that was different to this time. So this is different. This can't be the same. It's still abuse. Now, with Gabby, I feel like she probably felt shame. And by the time she really just needed people to know, I feel like it was probably too late anyway. His family, I know what that's like. And this is where it can get triggering. His family are a disgrace. I've watched the Netflix, documentary and all that kind of stuff. I don't really care what their excuse is. Well, obviously, the apple is his mother. No. That apple did not fall. The apple does not fall far from the tree, trust me. And, oh no. So, and if you watch the documentary, just look at the things that she was sort of like writing, and she was a wrong one. And she raised a wrong one, I'm going to say. And that's as honest as I'm going to be about that. And it's a shame because Gabby just seemed like such a nice young, just coming into the world and everything. And she just, ended up with, again, there's a lot of jealousy that goes beyond that. And there's nothing worse than being in partnership with an abuser that are also jealous of you. Like, I'll tell you something that's wrong with society today is partners, especially men. Men are getting jealous of women. Jealous of a woman's success or the way or her independence, and there's so much that goes into it, but there is a real weird sort of envy in men, especially if they can't sort of control the woman either, and they have to break them down. But again, let's not forget this happens to men too, and I will never stop forgetting that either. So even if I may be sort of discussing the experiences from a female perspective on, my own sort of analysis on it, we've got to remember men go through this, and men have got to speak up. So, yeah, it was disheartening to sort of watch that Netflix. I didn't really want to watch it because I knew that triggered me too, because there's so many little things that brought a lot of my memories back, and it's like, oh God, But towards the end, I was lucky because I did find the support, and the support network I got was not in friendships at all, because people don't want to deal with it. So and that's kind of hard, because then you end up hiding more. Like, well, nobody cares, nobody gives a shit, so nobody wants to be burdened with it. Nobody wants. I just feel like no, that's what it's like. So it's hard to sort of reach out, and then you got to remember, in the midst of shame. Well, I'll tell you one thing right now, as a survivor, you drop that shame. You don't have to be ashamed. It's not shameful. No victim or survivor should ever be feeling shame. You got to get rid of that, because that does help with the healing process. It's very hard for me to discuss this because it's still very raw sometimes. But for me, it's different as well, because I know that I'm not healed completely still. So I can't even get into another relationship yet, even if I wanted to, because I do not want to be taking that, any elements that are still a little bit unhealed, I do not want to be taking that into a relationship where it could be a really healthy relationship and a good, and I don't want to destroy it or ruin it by taking any unhealedness into it and then taking it out on me. I don't want to do that. I'd rather be alone until I'm completely ready. And that could take years too, but it's not just that. There are elements of that unhealed still. So because that's the fact, that's the whole point of being a survivor. You're constantly healing. It's not a process that happens overnight. So I feel like, and you got to remember as well, and I guess I'm not just speaking about Gabby's case, but to all victims and survivors, when you look back on the beginning and the start of it, and you look at the start of how you started to realize there was something wrong, or you always start to understand where it started from. Like you can see where the gaslighting started, and the jealousy, and then the manipulative tactics, and it's always, and again, it's not just relationships. I've dealt with this in friendships and serious with family members and everything. It's not just, there's a real weird envy that causes people to bully, and that's pretty much it. But again, it's the pattern. It's a pattern that I had, that I didn't realize I was carrying this pattern and allowing it in some ways. Like I wasn't allowing it, I just didn't realize, but it was me, because I was so used to being abused mentally, psychologically, physically. So all my life, I don't know what it's like to, I do now. Never accept it now, you're joking, right? But back then, and this is not a laughing matter, it's just I have a bit of a nervous laugh. So, but back then, my pattern was, well, oh, it's okay, I guess it's just me. I was so used to being told I was dumb. I was so used to, you'd be amazed at how that word, right, is being used. And if you're a victim or a survivor, you'll have been called dumb. You'll have been called every single name under the sun. And eventually you get to a point where you think, well, I don't think there's anything else you can call me that you aren't sort of like trying to hurt me with, because these abusers, they run out of stuff to call you, so they just repeat, and then they hope that breaks you down more. And yet it's strange, because I know what it's like to be broken down into pieces. And I'll tell you something else as well. This is where it gets me, because I know there is This is where it gets triggering. Because there's been 2 occasions in my life, and it's very important to discuss this. It has to be discussed, because people need to understand there's always another way out. I know what it's like, and I'm feeling when I was connected to Gabby's energy as well on the 18th of September 2021. I knew then she was, because I was watching, and again, I'm going to be coming into it, but I was watching the way he was treating her on this journey, on this road trip. And it wasn't just the end, the string, the way he murdered her was not the end. I was seeing weeks of it, and I'll be discussing that more in my analysis. And I can discuss it now, my analysis, because it's been a while now, and I don't want to be triggering loved ones or any their hair loved ones either, but they probably have a better idea of what was going on too, but just too late, unfortunately. But it's I know what it's like. It's hard. I know you get to a point where like for 2 occasions, I remember one time and this is when I was in England. This is when I was just sort of after my first marriage and everything. It was really horrible at the end, but I was so distraught, and I thought I had a support network. I thought I had friends and everything, and the one friend I reached out to was supposed to be at the time my best friend, and I just wanted to die, but I didn't want to die forever. So, because I just needed to find out, and I couldn't. It was awful. I was trying to escape. And I remember this particular friend just said, well, what do you want me to do about it, basically? I'm like, well, I need your help. Oh, I'm too busy to deal with this crap. Just like that. So I ended up slamming the phone down on her public phone box too back in the day, and I called Good Samaritans. And I just walked into one of their centres, and they pretty much saved my life that day, because I was ready to just like end it. Not forever. I didn't want to end it forever. Just needed to end it, because I couldn't take the abuse anymore. And it wasn't just dealing with the abuse from that sort of that first marriage either. It was everybody around. Like, I didn't realise at the time, but I was just being like abused and bullied by everybody around me. It was absolutely disgusting to look back now and think. And that, but again, I remembered as well, like that was sort of normal for me growing up. So, and it's like that in all friendship. There's always, it's weird how there was always some sort of bully or abuser amongst the mist of who I was sort of having friendships with. Excuse me. And even in like, it didn't end. When you have that, there's so much abuse. It's in toxic work environments and everything. Workplace environments are the greatest offenders of nasty abuse and bullying, right? It comes from toxic working environments, big time. So again, you got to remember what they're dealing with in their homes is what they take into their workspaces. So some people who are nasty at home go into the workplaces and make that just as nasty and toxic. So people just take that, the abusers will take their abusive ways everywhere they go. So they're not just bullying their partners at home, they're bullying everyone around them, just in subtle ways, manipulative and everything. So, and then I remember later on, moving ahead to the sort of final abusive pattern that I ended completely. I just remember after being broken and beaten and spat on and everything, I remember I needed to get off the bathroom floor, and I just couldn't get up for a while. But I remember getting up off the bathroom floor, and it wasn't the fact that I'd just taken beaten, right? It was the fact that when I looked in the mirror, the reflection scared the shit out of me. That scared the shit out of me, because I didn't recognise the woman looking back. It was, can't even describe. I can't describe, because it didn't look like me. Even though it was me, it was the broken. And I knew then it was, I'm either going to die on this floor today and end it for good, or I'm going to get up and I'm going to get stronger and I'm going to start fighting. Not fighting back like, no. Fighting back in a way where I need to start planning my escape. Because there was only two options. Because I knew if I don't get out, I'm going to end up dead. Because these statistics are that real. Either way, I was going to end up dead at the hands of the abuser, or dead because I would just end it, just to escape. Either way, that was my option, but I chose to get up. And as soon as I saw that reflection, that was the day, that was a turning point for me. So I guess what really happened, what started that chain of events that started for me, was looking back at everyone and everything, that those that supposed to have loved me and should be supporting me, they didn't. And it's the hardest thing to sort of realize then, that you're really incredibly trapped. So, but then I remember I just remember how, looking back at everything again, you go back to the name calling and you'll amount to nothing, you're going to be nothing. All I ever heard all my life from everybody around me was, you're good for nothing, you're never going to amount to anything, you're a dumb C word. That's all I ever heard growing up. That's all I ever heard from people, from supposed friend, everything. Every single person that failed me, did not give two flying flip-flops about me, contributing and abusing me in one way or another, and as well as like relationships. Every single one of them tried to tell me I was worth nothing. But yet they molded me. They were the reason why I am who I am today. I can't, I think when you start to heal, you realize every single person was the stepping stone for your success. And it will happen. It comes like that naturally. Every single person from my past, even to the point in present, I mean, I have healthy boundaries now, but every single one of those abusers, bullies, they were my stepping stones for success. So as I was writing, and I remember before Gabby Petito went missing, I started writing my Silent Storm. And I just, because I was working on cold cases and missing persons cases, and like I said, this is literally a collaboration of that sort of dark side, the darkness of basically the human condition and the nature of people, and the jealousy and envy and everything. And it's kind of, especially in one way, but I mean, I had to transmute all of that darkness from the healing I was healing from them in me, but also transmuting that darkness of having to work on cold cases and victims, connecting to their energy frequencies and seeing that they're not even here, and their last memories before they passed away and everything. It's awful. And so, I tried to sort of transmute that and create. But when I always tell people to journal, especially if you're a victim of anything, journal. But my journaling isn't like the same as everybody else's. My journaling and my healing goes into my books. I just create novels, and it's a weird set for me to heal faster. But I mean, I've written many books, obviously, but I wanted to just sort of quickly, before I get into my analysis, this is an incredibly important video on it, and I really need people, because it collates to, it's all about Gabby's story too. Like, she was a victim, but there are millions of victims all over the world, and you've got to be able to sort of acknowledge what you're trapped in and be aware of it, but never give up. And when you find a way to escape it, then you start making that your stepping stones as part of your healing process. And I absolutely give credit to those I give credit to those and where it deserves. I do. I'm really that tough and strong now. But, I've obviously resubmitted, Silent Storm, but this is how I feel about my every single person, my abusers, past abusers, and credit where it deserves. I'm telling you, they're my stepping stones, remember, to my success, to who I am, to how they've helped me mold and shape myself into the amazing woman that I've become. And I did not go dark or bitter or anything. I use it to heal others. So this is my appreciation, and always be this tough and strong. Even if you're a victim, you will get to your survivor mode, and then when you get into that, you become amazing. I want to extend my sincere appreciation to everyone, both past and present, who has shaped my journey. This includes those who rejected me and those who I once looked for support, but who ultimately betrayed, traumatized, and undermined me. Your actions have been critical in building my resilience and strength. I also wish to acknowledge those who doubted my potential and that believed I would never succeed. Your skepticism has only intensified my determination and passion for achieving my goals and realizing my dreams. Indeed, jealousy can be a destructive force, but your jealousy projected against me only propelled me forward. You see, a lot of abuse starts, whether it's bullying tactics, partnerships, friendships, etc., it always starts with jealousy, and that is literally this is what this is about. I had to create and I need to get sweet revenge. I had to create. So important. It's hard for me to speak now because it's, again, I'm reliving and triggering, but it's very me, man. I knew it was going to be hard, but it needs to be done. It's very hard to create sort of bonds with people once you've become a survivor, and it's because it's not just partnerships where this happens anymore. It happens in friendships and everything. I'm going to share this because this is from my book, Sweet Revenge. This is where a lot of the abuse started in, there was an abusive pattern here. But the reason I'm going to share this is because it's very hard. This is probably going to upset me, but I need to talk about it so raw and organically and truthfully, is because those that it sort of, and I don't want to trigger anybody, but those that it resonates with, you will know you're probably either you will face this moment, and it's basically the mirror. Now, I call it strength. This is a trigger warning. Again, this is in Sweet Revenge. This is called Strength. I named this Strength, this poem. Trigger warning for domestic violence victims and survivors. And this is me. This is the day I got up off the bathroom floor. I stared in the mirror, asking, "Who are you today?" The reflection gazed back, revealing the face of a stranger. Who will you be tomorrow if you do not break free from this cycle of pain, hurt, and bitter disgrace? This image is haunting, a shadow of despair, far removed from the light you once shared. Another punch, a shove, gasping for breath. I fight hard to evade the fate akin to death. Your cruel words slice like a dagger's edge. This is not the love that should bind us in a pledge. Courage fades as confidence diminishes. How can I escape this unending charade? Endless days of sleep give way to the night, only to awake to relentless fights. Today, I cannot stand who you have become. This is when you're going to be honest with yourself. I cannot stand who you've become. As I confront this reflection, I feel so numb. If I lose this battle consumed by sorrow, I will stop caring about who you are tomorrow. I no longer wish to be a vision made in fright. I am a spirit yearning to find purest light. Yet another remark insists that I do not belong. Everything has crumbled and I have stayed here too long. Your words will be silent when you make your last call, but they will not fade away until you lose them all. My strength erodes beneath your cruel sway, leading you deeper into your dismay. This is my farewell to those I love. Who will never know how I struggle to rise above. And that is Butterfly Karen, survivor of domestic violence. Because I am a survivor. And you will become tough. You will become a survivor, but you have to escape it. You've got to, it's very hard. It's very hard to sort of be honest and raw with yourself too, like, because that there's no other way. And when you escape it, it's a process. Then the healing journey only just starts, and then the survival journey starts too, along with the healing. It's not easy. And there's a part where you're tempted to sort of go back to the familiar, because you're afraid of the unknown. But then there'll come a point where you can't even go back that way. You can't even do that, because you just know it's not going to end well at all. So it's very hard. Even as a survivor, it's hard. It's triggering. But it makes you realize just how incredibly strong you are. Because every single day you get up and you keep fighting to live. And you keep pushing ahead. My abusers, everybody that I just spoke about, they made me one hell of an incredible, successful woman, because I used them as my stepping stones. And it's very sad, because with Gabby, she never got to do that. She never got the chance to do that. Like a lot of victims of domestic violence, it does not end well, unfortunately. And it's very sad for the families too, because sometimes they don't even know it's happening to their loved ones, their daughters, even their sons, until it's too late. And it's such a, it's everywhere. It has to end. But so many people out there are so unhealed, and then don't even get me started on the just nasty, evil ones. I'm not talking about them. They're the worst ones. There's nothing good about them. They just love controlling and hurting people. They are sadistic. And they just need to control everything and everyone. And they will literally tear so-called loved ones to pieces. They'll turn them into nothing just to control them. And then when they're no longer useful for anything, they just discard them like trash and move on to the next victim. These people are evil, and that is a choice. So with Gabby's case, there was a lot more coming out in the Netflix series that obviously heightened. There was a lot more she was going through, and there was a picture I saw, and I remember thinking, "Oh God, I've been there. I had pictures like that." But again, there was always there was always in the saved file, that should never have seen the light of day. But you had to have them just in case. It's not nice. Now, so if that triggered anybody that is a victim or a survivor of domestic violence at all do apologize. I'm not here to trigger anybody, but I urge you to get help. Drop pride, get help. Seek it. There's a lot of resources too. Reach out to anyone there is, and I do believe Gabby's family do have a website that you can talk about it. Let me just find it. I believe it's called wannatalkaboutit.com. I'll put it is in this video description too, and I'll put the link in the description box below now. So I'm going to get to the case, the analysis. Gabby Petito. Now, on the 18th of September, 2021, I actually conducted my real-time remote viewing session on Gabby Petito. At this point, she'd been missing a few weeks at this point. I actually, obviously it was a real-time remote viewing session, so I clocked in at 6:15 p.m. And then, so my intention was to connect with the energy of Gabby Petito. After I connected with her energy, I found myself, now this is the time stamps and everything for a reason. I found myself standing on the top of a trail that was like a bike trail. But I was also on top of a mountain or a large hill, like a mountaintop. I was visually seeing her from a high elevation because I was seeing two visuals at this point. Now to the right of me, I could see a sign that read bike or something, like probably a possible bike lane. And then I was drawn to the left side of the trail, and I found myself looking down a mountain rock surrounded by boulders and then shrubs. And like terrain plants and, sort of like crevices here and there. As I visualized towards what looked like, and I was sort of a visual, because I was seeing it from 2 points of view, but I was visualizing like sort of the ground got sort of more flatter, but there was still sort of little crevices here and there. And then I found myself looking and thought, obviously I can discuss this now, but I didn't discuss this until now because this was on the 18th, what I was seeing. Plus it was an active investigation. I was seeing the body of a young blonde woman, sort of laid on her side on her stomach with one arm down by her side and the other was sort of raised in front of her face. She looked like she was sort of in the sort of prone position, like this sort of like a fetal position, but it's hard to explain. And she was just sort of like covered with like plants and like sort of rocks, and it was weird. That's how I was sort of seeing her. So I mean, at this point, obviously, I knew she'd already passed away. Now, the second visual I was seeing, I feel like this was her memories up until a final memory. And I was seeing the visual of physical fights between these two people. Now, we didn't really know a lot about what was actually going on and what her ex-fiance had sort of been. We knew on the news there was a lot of pushing and shoving, but I was seeing this on the, again, 18th of September 2021. So I was sort of seeing, there was a visual of hiking, like I was seeing them both hiking, and he was, it's really going to piss me off. There was like physical fights, and then he was pushing her. Like, I feel like she went through weeks of him just pushing and shoving and hitting and punching, right? And I don't know if I went to the extreme, but I felt that I was sort of seeing one point where he was pushing her and shoving her, and she slipped because it was hiking on like a mountain, like not a mountainside, but sort of like hills, hillside and like hillside of terrain. And she sort of went flat, she was sort of like, she slipped a lot. She was, this is really going to trigger me. She kept slipping, like he was hitting her, and at one point I was seeing a visual where she'd slipped down like a hill and a shoe fell off, like a trainer, one of her like sports shoes. Trainer fell off. And then I was sort of seeing her laid on her back, and I thought, oh gosh, I thought, she seriously like broke her back? Because it felt like she couldn't move. I was watching this visual, it was like a video visual of her showing me a memory where she couldn't move or anything, and I'm like, oh god, you're going to be kidding me. And then rather than him help her, it was sort of like bending over and choking her, and I'm like, oh god, you're going to be kidding me. Now at this point, I don't know, it felt like there was I felt like her, I knew it strangled her even at this point, because now I was sort of seeing visuals of this stuff happening along the road trip, and then just from hiking and stuff like this, like there was always some sort of fight going on, and hitting and punching and stuff like that. But then I did see the final the final memory was, again, he choked her, strangled her. Like he beat her. He beat her first. Like I was watching him sort of beating her and everything. But she put up a fight as much as she could. But he was just too strong for her. And they ended up strangling her. So I knew then that was their cause of death, but we didn't know that until further down the line. Now, what I was hearing on energy and clairaudience was it's the wrong word. I'd like to know, because I feel like I knew where she was moved. Like where she was found was not where she was strangled. It might, because I was hearing Beaver Rock and then Beaver Rock Creek, and then I heard killed during hike, which kind of would make sense because I kept seeing this constant punching her, and so that this could have been to the point where leading up to the final. Then I heard Utah, and then ventured off the trail. She didn't slip, she was pushed. Find the shoe, she's close to the shoe. So this is where I'm a bit intrigued. Well, not intrigued, more to do with, I feel like the area where she wasn't found in Utah, but there's something going on, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment. Something going on was something about Utah. Because I feel like they were in Utah, and this kind of stuff was happening in Utah. Now this is where she may have kind of lost like a sports shoe or something. But I did hear Utah really clearly, so there was something happened in Utah. And even then, even because I was connected to her frequency, it was like she was showing me a point where they were possibly driving through Utah. And then I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So, but there was like find a shoe, and then obviously then I saw her sort of like laid and kind of like in that sort of prone fetal position, but that's I can't speculate whether, because it felt like she was beaten and strangled. not far. It was like on a hike on a trail. So that sort of that's when it started, where the full build up started on some sort of hike, and then they got to that point. I feel like she was put there anyway, and placed there. That I don't feel like for a second that's not. I don't believe that's where she was. No, but that's okay. I mean, you know. So yeah, I did even then on the 18th. I felt like I was literally seeing. Gabby was sort of showing me her final weeks, final hikes, and like. So I knew then there was a lot of domestic abuse going on. I knew she was deceased. I knew she was no longer with us. And then again, pre-fall beatings on the face and strangulations on the neck. That's exactly what I got. All injuries there. There was a lot of pushing. There was a lot of pushing. He was constantly pushing her. I'm serious. Even it's like anyway. But there was a horrible beating before. Now, fast forward. So, Gabby Petito's official autopsy was strangulation, head injury. So there was, again, head injuries. I feel like there's a lot more. And I'd like to know if there was something wrong with her spine. Now, obviously, this is just the analysis to sort of the Netflix sort of documentary. But again, my finding was rocks, shrubbery, trees, flat land, and then creek, river. There's like little rivers. I was visually sort of connected from two angles, because at one point I was sort of on a mountain sort of range or high hills, and I was looking down all this sort of flat land, and and then I was then obviously the second one I was surrounded by just sort of flat land, and now then I was. Again, I was heading Beaver Creek, and then I hit Bear Creek, Utah. And then I saw, and again, it's because I was sort of seeing them hiking. I'm wondering, I was trying to sort of looking at the trail they may have gone, possibly the route they may have taken. And if they went through Utah, heading up to sort of Wyoming, I'm wondering if they stayed at, I believe it's possibly I think it's a Bear, because I heard Bear Creek, Utah, and then Beaver Creek too, so I'm not quite sure what that was about. But I do believe there is a camping park, like a state park called Bear Creek in Utah, or like Bear Creek Camping. Yeah, Bear Creek Camping Park in Utah. And then again, I was sort of seeing this sort of like it looked like a route all the way up through sort of Utah up to Wyoming, and that's where I feel like she was constantly dealing with this, and it's not just physical abuse; it's this verbal abuse and all. You know, it felt like she couldn't even really enjoy. Like what I was feeling was connecting to her. She couldn't even enjoy the experience of traveling because she was just with a absolute narcissistic little coward. That's all he was. So I'm going to be connected because obviously it was cocaine missing persons case. It's CCMP 70, but it's going to be the analysis to the AMC 03. Oh la la, I can't speak my plane. So what I'm going to do is just sort of I'm going to put the video, I've attached the video of what I did as the basic report that day. The same, pretty much sort of explaining my connecting to Gabby even back then on 18th of September 2021, just before because that was a long day, and that's when I emailed it to the FBI. at 10:35 p.m. on the same evening. And then the next day, on the 19th of September, she was found. I'm not saying that had anything to do with mine, but they were close. They were, yeah, I couldn't believe how they'd found her like the next day. I mean, they've been looking for her for weeks, but it was just interesting. Now, I think it's just very important for people to understand there is different types of abuse. Some of it's subtle, some of it's verbal abuse. There's a lot of gaslighting. You've got to. Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Karen McCowsey. I'm the leading paranormal investigator on any of my cases. Okay, so I am going to be slightly discussing case AMC03. Okay, so this is based on the young lady that's missing, as we know in the media. I don't really want to mention names because I don't want to. It's an active investigation, and we can just go to the media and we can see who it's about. However, the reason I don't want to discuss too much about it because one, it's active, two, they're still trying to locate her. However, I did, there was just something about, I don't know why, I don't take on case, I don't do paranormal investigations or parapsychological investigations based on media exposure. I think every single human missing person, man, woman, child, doesn't matter, should receive exactly the same level of exposure. But sometimes this is the way the media is. I don't particularly like it, but we can't do anything about it. They pick and choose who gets the most airtime. Now, for me, I was following the case. I'm like, okay, we know there's obviously a lot more going on, but as I was sort of watching and really following what was actually happening, I was already getting, do one of mine, do an investigation. So I did one last night, 6:15. Okay, so I did see a lot, locations, etc. Again, I'm not going to mention any of that because one, I don't want to get people's hopes up. Two, again, as we know, paranormal science, parapsychology, my field cannot be disproven or proven, so it cannot be absolutely gospel. It's just data collection for comparison. I'm going to say this all the time. It's just I do what I do, and I connect to energy. Energy can be on 5D, or it can still be active, alive. It doesn't really matter. Energy is energy. So once I'm able to connect to energy, I make the intention of connecting to that specific person's energy, or if it's energy attached to them, again, I will be led to the person I'm intending to contact and make contact with. There was a few things I was picking upon. However, I'd like to do an update on this at some point, again, because it's active right now. If it was a cold case, I could probably mention a lot more. But because it's active, I don't want to confuse people, and I don't want to create fear, and I don't want to create disappointments, etc. That's not what I want to do. The be all and end all is I can always work on an active. I like working on active missing persons cases. So I did that, and I was under in deep meditation for well over an hour. And I came out, and I felt, when I came out of it, I felt good. Like, okay, it's interesting. So I literally emailed that report over to the FBI last night. As soon as I finished my session, I started typing up the report because it's of an urgency about it too. Because it's right, we're trying to locate this young woman. So that's exactly why I distributed the report immediately. Now, what the FBI decides to do with that is nothing to do with me now at this point. I've done my job, and
it's not about what you believe or you disbelieve, and I don't care about people's biases or belief systems either. I really don't care. That's not my job to care about what people believe in. Absolutely not. I don't care. And I most certainly don't care what people think about me, because that's none of my business. I do what I do, and regardless of people's beliefs, etc., is not, again, it's not going to stop or deter me doing what I do. It would be great if the data helps. It would be great to get feedback. I mean, you know, that wouldn't hurt. I can't expect, you know, I don't do what I do for credibility, you know, for credit or recognition or anything like that. That's not why I do it. I do it to help people. In 5D or 3D, it doesn't matter. I help people, loved ones. And obviously, because, let's be logical, in my field and what we do, because it cannot be proven or disproven, you can't get the recognition that we deserve. Because we're opening a different door to many, many reasons, but the point is, it is, for me, I understand why. So I don't get offended or anything like that. I mean, it would be nice to just get some, you know, like a, yep, thumbs up, it was good data, it helped. Oh, no. And you know, also detectives can get the reports and go, what is this crap? And just throw it in the bin. I don't care. It didn't cost them anything. So they don't have to take it seriously. They don't even have to compare it to what they're already, you know, what they've already got. The point is, I've done my job. Now it's up to them to do their job. They have a lot more resources, etc. And I did send it directly to, rather than, you know, the police department itself, I actually sent it directly to the FBI because they're involved, and two, they have a lot more access to more resources, etc. So if they want to use their resources, fantastic, go for it, you know. What you got to lose? You know, you're still looking for this young lady, so what have you got to lose? To look at, to just compare data. That's the way I see it. So that is, so basically, yeah, I just worked on that Mr. Person's case last night. I'm feeling good about it. I'm hoping, obviously, that we locate her very soon. I'm not going to focus too much on anybody else that's in the equation, because it's not about, I mean, it's not about them per se. The point, mine is more to do with finding her, so I'm bringing her home to her family. However, she comes home, it doesn't matter at this point. But yes, so this is where I'm at. I mean, I will monitor obviously the investigation, as we all are, and you know what's happening. It's just, I just hope that what I was able to retrieve data-wise, etc., because I do use the remote viewing method, and I really went in deep too. So sometimes if I'm trying to get a location, I'll probably do a lot, you know, I'll really not just remote view, but I'll really try and astral project too. I like to go up, I like to get an aerial perspective, like too. So sometimes I like to go up and then come down, especially if I'm already connected to the energy. I want to see what's going on around, terrain, etc. So that helps a lot. But I always use the remote viewing method. And I just hope I hope something comes from it. And to be honest, I just, regardless of my dates, I just hope we find this young lady soon. And it's the same with any active missing persons cases or old missing persons cold cases. You know, when I do what I do, I don't choose them because they're in the media or because I've heard of them on a document. No, I don't do that at all. I connect to energy, and then my intention is bring a victim forward, connect, and then show me, and that's it. So it's very random for me, and they're not selected by me, and this is usually the reason why, okay, I need to really, if I'm going to select one, it's probably children, missing children, more than, you know, adults. But I don't necessarily select, I just allow myself to go deep and do what I do, and then allow the energy to come to me. And the reports are there, I put the reports together, and then if I get locations, absolutely, I'll distribute them accordingly. But again, if they want to throw them in the trash can, I can't do anything about that. If they want to just use the data and compare it, it's just, you know, we're on the right track. Oh, okay, we're already, okay, this confirms we're going where we need to go. Or it could be just another avenue to look at. So yeah, like I say, my personal opinion, and I keep all my opinions out of it, but if I'm going to have a personal opinion on airtime and media exposure, all missing persons should get that. So there you go. But I don't control it, unfortunately. So other than that, like I say, I just wanted to update everybody, and this is active missing persons case AMC 03. And
when someone makes you feel guilty because you want to, it's hard because these days it's like everybody likes fighting, but it's not healthy at all. I don't like fighting. So most people that enjoy fighting in relationships, they wouldn't even, one or the other probably wouldn't even realize it's a very dysfunctional situation that they're in, and it's not healthy at all. But some people get off on that, right? I'm not talking about those people. There's usually an aggressor, and if you may not realize you're in a situation or a very unhealthy sort of abusive relationship, whether it's just, you may think, well, calls me names, or she calls me names all the time, and she trying to lower my confidence and myself, breaking down my self-esteem, and yeah, that's abuse. So if you're feeling like, okay, I feel like the person that, but I love them so much and I just want them to be better and change, and I'm trying to support them, stop supporting them. You're enabling the behavior. They're breaking you down they're abusing you, and they're breaking you down, and they're making you feel bad about it, making you feel like you're guilty for it. No, don't do that. That's how it starts. And before you know it, and when that stops working, like when the verbal attacks stop working, they get physical, because they need to keep, especially when you're no longer showing that, well, I just don't care, screw you, or you're sort of like verbally fighting back, or trying to put your foot down, and depending on what sort of evil creature you're in a relationship with, again, you don't really know their man frame or anything. You don't know if they're a psychopath. You don't know if they're a sociopath. I mean, you don't know if they're absolute. I know what it's like to be with a covert narcissist, trust me. So you don't know until you're in it. You don't really know what you're dealing with. Some abusers just don't care. They're just absolute like animals. They don't care about. Those are the sort of men, and even women. Again, there's no double standards here. They will literally like fight and punch and kick and literally beat somebody up, beat their loved one up in public. And those people need to be in prison. They need to be locked up. They are danger, not only to the person they're with, but to society. I have no right to do that. Okay, well, you are. Mind blowing. So, but those are the very I don't like any of them. Don't like any of that. They are just, there's always an excuse. They always have excuses. Oh, my addictions made me do it. Oh, you don't understand. My traumas made me do it. Oh, you don't understand. There's always an excuse. There's no excuse. You have no right to do that. Especially if you've been traumatized. If you've been traumatized, why would you hurt somebody else the same way you were traumatized? That's an unhealed person. And they will become the abusers. If you don't heal from this abuse, you will become the abusers. You will become what hurt you. And you've got to break that cycle. You've got to break that pattern. And there's some people that are just very volatile, and they're just like, well, have zero, can't control or anger or anything. Well, you need serious anger management then, don't you? Serious anger management. But it's like, well, I need anger. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll go and see you. I'll go and get some anger management. Okay, and you still already done the damage. They don't care. And I'll tell you something else about these sort of really nasty, evil, horrible abusers, right? Whenever they get caught and stuff like that, or they have to deal with the consequences, they are not sorry. They don't feel bad at all, right? I don't care how they're able to, if they can manipulate you for a very long time, right? They can manipulate the justice system and everything. You'd be amazed at how manipulative these people are. They will literally scream, I'm the victim, I'm the victim. No, they're not. They'll play that card and everything. Seen it firsthand. It's like, really? You're not the victim here. You're the abuser. They are that cunning. They are that manipulative. And they're not sorry. They have no empathy or anything. If they were sorry, they wouldn't even raise their fist to you, would they? And our women. They don't care. Oh, well, you don't understand. I've got daddy issues and I've got mummy issues. Get help. That doesn't give you the right to go and start abusing or beating your partner up just because you got mummy issues or daddy issues. Get a grip. Get help. I feel bad that you've got mummy and daddy issues. I don't care any less. But that's not an excuse. That's a cop-out, and you need to heal. So, but you'd be amazed at what these sort of abusers, the excuses they will use to justify their abuse. And they don't feel guilty. They don't feel bad. They don't regret it. They just regret getting caught. And I'll tell you something else as well. Once you get these people arrested and they get nastier, and you think, hang on a minute, you've just been arrested. Should not like be a wake-up call that you've got to change your behaviour. No, they get even more vindictive, and now they're out for revenge, or they're dangerous. Gotta be careful. It's very hard when you've got to try to escape. Trying to escape an abuser is you've got to be very careful, especially when there's children involved in everything. You've got to be very careful. You've got to do it you can't. This is where it can get really hard, because it's the most dangerous time for a sort of victim in the midst of abuse is the moment they're either just about to leave or just after they've left. And then there's a period that if the abuser can get to the victim, that's what I call a statistical moment for so it's got to be very careful. There are resources out there, but it's very hard. Well, hello there. Got company. Hey, little man. Oh, hi there. Hi. Did you find your dinner? Hello. Come on. It's very audible. I'm convinced he might actually be deaf. Hello. You want to come up here? Hello, little boo-boo. Come and get a boo-boo. Oh, hello. Ooh. Come on then. Hi. You want to come up? Come on then. Hi. Where have you been? Hello. So, yeah, it's very hard, because like I know what it's like to have absolutely nothing, and all you're trying to do is sort of escape, and it's dangerous. Now I'm talking about cases where you've got to be strategic in your planning for escapism. It's very dangerous, because you're constantly walking on eggshells, and nobody should ever live like they're walking on eggshells ever. So that is a major red flag. If you feel like if you're wondering, am I in an abusive relationship, right? If you ever feel like you're constantly having to walk on eggshells with your partner, yeah, get out of that. That's a major red flag. You shouldn't be living like that anyway. And if someone's making you feel like you're constantly having to work on eggshells, there's something wrong there. That's not healthy at all. So if you feel like that, right, you might just be dealing with like verbal abuse or anything like that. But if you're literally walking on eggshells, you've got to be, I would start leaving at that point. I'm talking about the cases where you just feel trapped, like you can't be most extreme. It's hard. I mean, all cases are extreme and bad enough, but there's cases where, and again, like myself, it's that strategic planning and having to constantly try to escape. I mean, I did it so many times and I just got dragged back. Oh, God. But there's always that final time where it has to end one way or another. So, and it's not, and that's the most dangerous time. So if you can find help and assistance to get you out of that situation carefully and safely, I encourage you to do that and not look back. And I know it's harder when you've got children, but I can tell you right now, as a child, product being raised in domestic violence, my mother always said, oh, well, I only stay for the sake of the kids. That's a cop-out. And in some cases, it's very hard for mothers or even fathers to leave, but mostly mothers, to leave because there's children. But you're not doing your children any favours at all. No. At that point, if you're on the receiving end of physical abuse and verbal and psychological abuse, and you do not be looking at, oh, he's the father of my kids and I'm only staying for the sake of the kids, please don't do that. Because if he can do that to you, what do you think he can do to your kids? You should be thinking about, that's when you want to start thinking about their safety as well as your own. It's very important. I'm a true speaker. I can't sugarcoat this. Like, some people can do it in a way where try and dilute it so they don't trigger people. That does not help. That gets people killed. You cannot dilute this at all. You've got to be just completely honest about it. It's horrible. It hurts me to even speak like this because I know what it's like. Well, hi there. And, you know, so it's just, it's sad because, you know, if you have a support network and your loved ones are encouraging you to leave a bad situation, you should be listening to your loved ones. Because if you're with somebody, but I love them and I don't want to leave them, I just want them to change, then you're not going to change. They're going to get worse. And if you've got loved ones who are telling you, you can't stay in this, and you can't stay in this, you need to be listening to them, because what's happening is your abuser is already trying to segregate you from your loved ones. It's easily done. Basic manipulation will do that. And then remember, there'll be a major gaslighting going on and everything. So you're going to be so confused, like, I don't understand. Is it me? Is it me? The fact that you're questioning yourself after your abuser's accusing you, it's you. No, that's a major red flag. If you know your abuser is doing wrong, the fact that is he or she has even lifted their hand and fist to you is wrong. Bad. But again, it doesn't always start out like that. It's so subtle. Some of it starts out so subtle. So you don't always know you're in it until you're in the thick of it, and then you're like, I'll get out of this. I can't. It's really hard. I mean, I'll share it's different because in, again, all scenarios, what I was in as a fair-time domestic survivor is each situation that started, each relationship, the scenarios were so different. And the first one, it was like my first boyfriend and my first fiance and everything. Really, I was going to marry this guy and everything. And like, I remember being in his restaurant and he was a drunk. When he had a drink, he was just a horrible drunk, literally, like most people. Can't handle the liquor or anything. And because his excuse was he thought his friend was chatting me up. He wasn't just sat talking to me while I was waiting for him. And because he was so drunk, he just thought, he decided to get a machete, right, from his father's restaurant kitchen, right, and threaten his friend with it. And then I'm like, what the hell, like, maniac, right? And then he elbowed me in the temple and literally knocked me out. I woke up with someone doing first aid on me. That's how bad that was. And I got out of that. I left that immediately, and it was my own parent, right? I left like, he's got to go, right? Immediately, I'm leaving him. But his parents convinced my parents for me to give him a second chance, but because, and then it took me like, they drilled into me for 2 weeks. Oh, it's okay, just please just give him a second chance. And I did, right? Because I was worn down by people trying to right? All because his parents had money. It was disgusting. That would never happen these days. But that's how the scenario was back then. And he did it again. He came in. I went out with my best friend one night, and he just smashed my whole, flat up and everything. All because I was 20 minutes late, because I went to get some Chinese food with my best friend Lisa. Came home and he smashed up me. I'll tell you what ended that relationship immediately after all of that was the fact that, he put a knife to my throat. He tried to cut my throat in front of my best friend. She was jumping on his back, right, trying to get him off me. And adrenaline, everything. It was the fact that he punched my best friend is what, oh, hell no to the no. All bets are off. And then it was just, no, that was that. Nobody touches my best friend. So grabbed her, ran out of the flat, left it in the shit state, I didn't care. And he was literally arrested. Just horrible. But I never saw him after that. No. But, there's just so many scenarios. And that was just the first experience of what the hell. And that was the most extreme because that was just physical. And then after, each time, each sort of relationship, it was weird. It was they never started out like that again, because I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to stay with any man that hits me or anything. So the next one didn't work like that, didn't start like that, did it? No, it was manipulative. And then the third one is even worse. So, but those are cycles that ended. Those are patterns that you have to change as well, so you don't become a victim again, and it continues that pattern. It's not our fault. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not blaming the victim at all. There's nothing to do with that. It's a pattern that we carry. And again, if you condition or you're conditional, and it's all part of that, and you don't really know any different, it's hard. It's that you're like a magnet to the narcissists. You're a magnet to the abusers. It's like you're carrying energy, and victim, yeah. That's why you got to get out of victim mentality. Got to be a survivor. Got to be tough. But you've got to recognize the signs next time round, so you don't fall into it again. For me, not a chance in hell at all. That will never happen again, because the next time a man ever decides to put his hand on me, I'm going to prison for life. I will not be that victim again. No. I will fight next time to the death. I don't care. It's not going to happen. So this is where your strength will come from. And nobody should ever have to feel like, oh, no way, I'll go down fighting to the death, or one of us will end up in prison. No way. Nobody should ever having to live like that or feel like that. But I won't allow it. No. Now, thankfully, if I ever did get into a relationship again, I'll be looking for the red flags and everything. I'll know them. And the first one, gone. Bye-bye. No, he's not going to stick around long enough to try and throw another one or fly another one in front of me at all. Because I'm not that weak, and it's not even a weakness. It's because, it's that kindness that they mistake for weakness. I'm not that kind like I used to be in that way. I'm still kind. I've got a kind heart, but I'm not that. No, I'm a bit more tougher when it comes to that sort of stuff. It's just, again, it's those red flags that I missed the first time, missed the second time. Should have seen the third time, but the third time was very, very manipulatively done. So, again, you can't always see it until you're in it. But the moment you see it, if I was to see it now, if I was in it now, I'd be out there. Because I'll tell you one thing as well. When you realize you've got no support network and nobody at all, to help you at all, you will go through anything alone in the future, because you've been through hell. If you can survive hell, right, alone, with no support, except for the support that you could get. I mean, I got a little bit of support at the end. It was great, but you can survive that hell. You'll survive it. You know, you won't tolerate it in the future, but you will survive. You know, if you ever have to be alone, you'll be okay with being alone. So, but then again, just for me personally, I only speak for me. You know, I don't speak for anybody else. But I've always been alone. Even when I've had people around me, being alone. So, just the way it is. So that's not really birth. That's probably what helped build my resilience anyway. Because when I was completely segregated from everybody, yeah, I had to figure out how to not only survive it alone, but find a way to escape it alone as well. It's not nice. And then you will always find, if you come across certain situations where help is offered, or you feel like, I'm going to ask for help here. Ask for help. You never know who. There are some good people out there, and they will help you, you know, or at least as much as they can. But if they don't know, they're not going to know to help you. So sometimes you've even got to ask for that help, and you're going to get rid of that pride thing as well, because it doesn't help. So, and then when people do try and help you, then that's a little bit different, because it helps. It changes things. So it helps move. You know, you feel like you've got a bit of support. It's not. It's more than you had before. And there are some people out there that don't have any support at all. You know what that's like too. And the people you would assume or think would be there for you, the moment they turn their backs on you and, oh no, I'm just too busy, I can't do this right now. No, you need to let those people go. No, because if they're not there for you in your darkest days of hell, they will never ever be there for you. And they do not deserve to be there for you in your days of light either. You've got to get rid of those people. So, but you'll find, the old saying's true, you'll always find out who your real friends are when you need them the most. Really sad, but it's true. Best of us. And it does not matter how strong you are. It can happen to the strongest people. So never feel like, oh, that will never happen to me. I could never, I'm too strong and tough. Well, okay. It only takes the one time, the wrong person to just weasel their way in. And again, not all cases start like that. They're subtle red flags that you would just miss. You would just naturally miss, because you're in the midst of love and lust, whatever you think you're in, you know? And then you've got your trauma bonding. A lot of people trauma bond today, again, because they're unhealed people. And instead of getting help and therapy, they take that trauma and they go into the next relationship and create cycles of abuse. And there you go. That's why the statistics are so high right now. Oh, it's awful. So, but you need to get help. You do need to, but if you can find just somebody to talk to, that helps a lot as well. Like I used to think if I just had somebody in my worst days to talk to, but I didn't. And again, when I did try to reach out to people, and I did find somebody I thought I could, but it was the old, it was just like, oh, I don't want to get involved. It was too weird. Oh, I don't want to get involved. I can't get involved. They're not going to help you at all. So you do feel like you're alone. It's horrible. But definitely, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to end up in the shelter and everything. You have no idea. It's awful. Nobody should have to live like that or deal with that. But if you have to end up in a shelter, take the resources, ask for help. But you have to break the cycle, so it never happens again. And you've got to get away from your, and once you manage to get away from the abuser, you'll have to go through periods of civility and stuff like that if you can't completely get, rid of them alive. But just be safe, And if you ever feel unsafe, you just call the police. It's as simple as that, and just hope and pray to God they, come and help you. So it's sad. Like I say, just sort of watching, and Gabby's case as well. It's sad because there is, I know what it's like to be working on missing persons cases and cold cases, and just like there's so many victims, and I don't like the idea of victims that couldn't speak. You know what I mean? Like no, I don't like that. Especially doing what I do. I'll be the final. If I had to see the last memory, I'll be the final voice. Okay. Because no victim should go unheard. And it happens to so many people. And the problem with the mainstream news is, and we know what it's like, they're incredibly biased and everything, and I don't like the mainstream media at all. They will only give airtime to certain types of young people, like people who look a certain way. They're so incredibly biased, it's disgusting. When you think about, so they'll put all the airtime and focus on the girl next door or the boy next door, and yet there are thousands and thousands of missing people that deserve the same airtime. Well, screw the media, I don't care about them. You've got to be, every single victim, every missing person deserves to be looked for in the same manner. They all deserve the same airtime, especially children. They all deserve the same airtime and everything. But there are so many, there are thousands of missing people that you won't even know about because they don't get, unless you get to hear of it, you don't know because the news is so biased. It's disgusting. So when it comes to victims of crimes and acts of missing persons or cold cases, every single human being has a right to be searched for, looked for, helped. And if you have to be the final voice, then be the final voice. So, yeah, I didn't like the way, and I don't really like to work on cases either where it's all a big mainstream media charade to sort of like put all the focus on certain types of people that look a certain way. But it's not rocket science to understand what I'm talking about, right? That's the way they are. A lot of these mainstream media people are all racist and everything. It's disgusting. But they'll claim they're not, but they are. So, no. But then you have, it just really annoys me. It really does. I can't stand any of that. So I try and stay away from those sort of mainstream cases unless something triggers me into, it's like the Jay Slater case, and couldn't believe like where I saw him, where he fell is exactly where he was found as well, not far from where I was at. But again, his case triggered me, and the only reason I worked on his case because it hit mainstream, and the seriously social media circus just went full blown crazy. The Jay Slater case, conspiracy theories to the T and everything. And even when I was remote viewing, I already knew he was passed away. I already knew he's already passed over, or at least at the edge of it, because I was seeing the energy leaving and everything. So, I knew it was I knew then. I was just literally like trying to gather information of where he was. But that case was blown out of so it's awful. It became a circus. It's what happens when sort of cases go full blown like social media mainstream as well. It's like it removes the real objective is just so polluted with so many So all of the resources are going into unnecessary areas that shouldn't be going into, you know. Otherwise, I'd have found him a lot sooner. But I knew, even with his case, and the only reason I worked on his was because my best friend Lisa, you know, she has a son and they were going to Tenerife and everything. And she loves Tenerife. And she's like, oh, Karen, can you work on this case? Can you have a look? See, because, and that's what I did. And I'm like, okay. And then I was, oh, crap. It was really, really sad. But, and I sent that case to the Tenerife police and everything within, it was 24 hours. So, but yeah, there are the odd case here and there that even like the Tara Kalika and everything, but there are cases I work on. But I just don't like I work on cases that nobody's even talking about. Because every single person, every human being that is missing or is a cold case deserves the same level of help. That's the way I feel about that. So that's why I do what I do. So, but as for Gabby Petito's family, I mean, just so sad what they had to go through. And even with his family just not even trying to help was absolutely disgraceful. Withheld and crazy that was. But, so, and I just feel sorry. I just felt sorry for her because I thought, oh, she probably couldn't wait to get on that road trip, just to probably get away from his family, his mother anyway, especially that. Yeah, her energy is horrible. I mean, I didn't even need to be in the company of her, just sort of seeing her and just, no, energy speaks. Energy is energy. And I didn't like her energy at all. But, yeah. She was probably a reason as to why he turned out the way he was. She was probably a right horrible witch anyway, like a biatch, you know. Probably a dominating one with the husband well under the thumb, do you know what I mean? And just, no, I know those sort of women. There's far too many of those women in the world. And they are not victims. And if they were, they need to heal. Because they raise their kids to become what hurt them. Just cycles. You've got to be the one to break the cycle. So, yeah. Strange case. It's sad. But, yeah, so that was pretty much, I mean, I couldn't, at the time, obviously I wasn't going to be discussing exactly where I was seeing her and everything, because it was an active case at the time, but yeah, it made sense again because I was looking down the mountainside, like I was the visual, I was sort of looking, and that's where it was all sort of more flat land and just sort of shrubs and creeks and things. So, but I felt like I was, this kind of sort of open space, but you know, it's almost like, I'm not quite sure if he wanted her to be found or he just wanted the animals to get to her. You know what I mean? Oh, God. He was a full-blown narcissist, that one. Absolutely. Or whatever else he was. Even right down to like stealing, taking her money, right? And then leaving a message for him. He was just a wrong one. There's no help for those sort of people at all. I don't care about this sort of psychiatric help. There's no help for these sort of people at all. And if there is, it's, those sort of people can get help. It's few and far between, but no, not at all. I just don't buy it. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't care. Because they're sort of abusers and they are very manipulative and really deceitful and everything. And they are the victims. They will literally play the victim card to the very victim that they're abusing. And then anybody else, they will literally like make out to everybody around them. Oh, the facades there's abusers put on and everything. It's revolting. they will literally like scream to the blue murders and scream blue murder and scream to the heavens that they are the victim, right? To be seen in a completely different light. They're actually the evil violators and abusers and everything. But they had to put on a show, you know. But there was always, again, even the subtle signs. You can see if you look at their sort of behavior patterns too. There's always a behavioral pattern, but there's also little things about the behaviors too that sort of stand out or make people go, I just found this person to be a bit not quite sure what's something about that person. Well, that's your intuition, so you don't ignore that. And even, you know, people, I had somebody once tell me that about, you know, one of my abusers, and I just decided to go, maybe cock blocking. Because again, you've got to be careful who your friends are, because they're the ones that will literally be the, you don't know if they're going through a jealous phase, but don't ignore it either. Always have it at the back of your mind. Like, there was a time I looked back and went, oh, you know, she was a bit of a cock blocker, right? But she wasn't wrong. And the problem with that was she resonated with his behavior because that's what she was like. She was an abuser to people and to her partners. So what she was seeing in my abuser was exactly the same traits as each other. That's why she resonated immediately, like, okay, well, yeah. So there's little things like that. You can sort of keep those at the back of your mind, like, okay, I'll take your information into consideration. I'll you know, watch now. But again, it's not always that obvious and easy. It's just sometimes it's subtle. It's just hard. But when you are in the thick of it and you know you've got to escape it, you try and do everything you can to escape it. Don't stay in those. Whether it's just verbal abuse or, you know, emotional abuse, don't stay in them. They're not healthy at all. They're not healthy, and they will not get better. They will get worse. So, yeah, I knew that was going to be a bit triggering, but I hope anything that I discussed in this video helps, just to sort of, you know, again, there are resources out there, and just, you know, don't allow people to segregate from loved ones. You know, if someone's trying to make you feel like you're always with your friends and you're always with your, well, okay, well, you know, I'm not going to stop seeing my friends and I'm not going to stop seeing my family and loved ones because it bothers you. But again, it's the manipulative tactic. So you've got to just, you know, if you're not sure, but then you suddenly feel like, God, I really don't see my family much at all. And I used to see my family all the time, and suddenly I'm hardly seeing my family at all. That's a red flag. Because you're listening to your partner who's like probably trying to distance you from them, or your friends or your best friends, and all of a sudden you feel like you're not seeing your friends as much because you want to please him or her, you know, switch the roles, or you're trying to feed this ego, or you're trying to please this one. It's okay, yeah, I understand. You don't, yeah, you want me all to yourself. Red flags. It's a little bit different. So it's just little things like that. If you feel your intuition's telling you, I really need to see more of my family because I feel like this relationship's making me distance myself from the family. You need to start seeing your family. That's happening. It's true. So, and eventually, if you don't, you're going to end up feeling like you've got nobody in your life at all. And then when you do try and see them again, then all hell kicks off, and then the guilt trip, and I could go on all day about this, but it'll just upset me. So, but there are signs. Just look for the signs, and again, but if you're in the midst of it and the thick of it, and you're in a really, really bad situation, try and call police, or try and call somebody. Reach out for help somewhere. Don't stay in it. I mean, it's easy to say. I know what it's like, right? It's not always easy to leave. I know, trust me. But if you can find a way to escape, take it, take the chance. So other than that, I'm going to leave that then. And I really hope that I didn't trigger anybody, but if you have been triggered just a little bit, then please reach out and call. Just get some, I'll put some support networks in where you can reach out to different types of networks, and where you can call and things like this, and just to sort of, but it's hard. I know what it's like, and it's just, I feel myself getting upset, but I don't want to trigger anybody, but I don't want you to be feeling like you're alone either. Like, oh God, I'm in this alone and nobody understands. Oh yes, we do. Us stronger ones, we know. You get really strong. Eventually, when you're able to heal, you get stronger and stronger. But it happens to the best of us. You haven't done anything wrong. You haven't deserved it. It's not your fault. Just fallen in love with a horrible, horrible abuser, a horrible piece of crap. That's all in human form. It happens all the time. So now if you have been through that and you're recognizing the signs in somebody else, and you feel like you can help somebody in a similar situation, you know the dangers, so just make sure you can find a way to offer your hand and help, but in a safe and secure manner. Just let that person know. You may feel like you're alone right now, but if you ever need help, and you've got the opportunity to reach out, and give them your number, but make sure you have it's very dangerous when you're trying to rescue and help people, victims of domestic violence. It's dangerous. You want to be very careful. So, but I'm going to leave that there. But yeah, other than that, take care and big love. If you like my videos or any of my cases and my parapsychological analysis on any of my cases, I would be absolutely over the moon if you can give me a thumbs up, maybe a like, share, and all that beautiful stuff. And then obviously if you want to take a snapshot of that QR code, that is my super thanks code. That really just helps me sort of continue to make content and invest more time and energy into everything that I do for you guys and gals. So I'll be grateful if you could just give me one of those, and you can also use the link in the description box below too. Big love.